Yo, what's up, everybody? Ryan the Mighty Quinn here, the Cornerman underscore MMA. Hope you're all well. We're going to do a little piece here about putting together an underdog victory for the Sean Brady replacement and Josiah Harrell against Jack Della Maddelena. I know I was going to mess up his name. Let me make sure I'm doing that right. Della Maddelena. Yep, Della Maddelena. So now looking at this fight, the top prospect. That's another thing that's interesting is I like how people call these younger fighters that are in the UFC prospects. Those guys aren't prospects anymore. They're elite. They're at the level. Josiah Harrell definitely qualifies as a prospect. 7-0 on the regional level. I saw he had some big wins in CFFC. Um, taking the fight that he can to get to the next level. Now, usually he fights at lightweight. This fight clearly is a welterweight fight. That's where Jack usually fights. And we can't dismiss this. Remember, it's still a fight. He has to put a game plan together with his corner in the short time that he has, and we're going to talk about what that game plan should be right now. Now, it's important to remember when you're in a situation like this as the underdog. First of all, you can't beat Jack Della Maddelena everywhere. So, but you got to figure out where you could beat him somewhere greedy in that area. Wrestlers are notorious for this, or really they were. People are much more well-rounded these days. But back when I was going, wrestlers are notorious for this. What do I mean by that? I was a great example of that. I always fought much better mixed martial artists. First fight that comes to mind is my Bellator debut against Matt Lee. He was definitely a much more well-rounded mixed martial artist with the grappling, even some judo, with definitely the boxing. So I had to use my wrestling. I knew I was good at my wrestling, and I was keeping it to this fight a wrestling match. And so that's just breaking it down where my head's at. Just find where you're good at and keep the fight there. Now, when you have somebody like the 14th ranked welterweight in the world, and Jack, we'll just call him DM. He's so good everywhere. He's got zippy punches. He's got great grappling, powerful hips. And he's got good counter striking. Now, he also has, I don't know if he has a wrestling background, but he has pretty good wrestling for mixed martial arts. So how do you beat the bigger, more elite fighter in these areas? If you're somebody coming in and you want to make a splash in your UFC debut, even though it's a replacement, they're probably going to 0-1 down the line, even if he gets knocked out in 10 seconds. So where does the shorter, less experienced fighter, where does he take his advantages? I was watching some of Harrell's fights, and he's the muscle hamster, I think is his nickname, or something like that. So where does the muscle hamster find his victory? First, he fights like a short fighter. He fights like a short, stocky wrestler, very heavy-handed. He's got a really explosive double leg. From what I've seen, although his finishing looked a little shabby in one of the fights I saw, however, he does have that north-south finish. Being shorter, we'll get back to that. He's got very strong, powerful ground game. I don't want to call it jiu-jitsu, but I'll just call it a very strong, powerful ground game. When he got his hooks in on that one fight, he wasn't getting them out. So where do we capitalize here? First off, he needs to have that footwork in his favor. That's something that he should try to get down right now. There's very little that you could work on in this 1 week, but you got to work on your game plan. You got to stick to it. And you got to think about things here. What is stuff that I'm working on at all times that I can implement as my fundamentals, as my game plan going into this one? Your footwork, there's somebody like that needs to be working his footwork nonstop. Well, everybody does, but why is that important for him? Working your footwork is going to give you a little bit of a level up for your striking, especially like somebody like myself. I didn't have very good striking. It kind of camouflages your mistakes if you could keep your distance, keep those angles with footwork. That's what he needs to do here. I noticed a lot of times in his videos that he would have some forward progress and he would shake it out. This is like a reset almost, but he would shake it out. He would take 3 or 4 steps back. You can't do that here. You can't give Jack DM any ground. So he needs to work that footwork to establish the center and keep it. Try to, work that jab, some level changes. What do I mean by level changes? Think about when somebody fakes a takedown, stuff like that. Level changes, level changes, level changes. That's the stuff that he needs to work there to try to bait him in Work that feint best you can. I don't know how developed it is. Didn't look too developed in his last fight. And just try to throw the bombs over whatever Jack DM is throwing or shoot underneath. It looks like he's got a wrestling base. I would try to get Jack to open up and shoot underneath. Creep forward on this guy. Creep forward on Jack to try to get him to shoot things. If the best example of this that I could think of to really dumb it down would be Randy Couture versus Chuck Liddell 1. Randy used his footwork and his lateral movement to get the heavy-handed striker to throw bombs when he was up against the fence and shoot underneath. That is the key to scoring here for Josiah Harrell. Simple things like that. Keep it simple. What do I have available that it's not going to be exposed? Like I said, you can't beat him everywhere. Don't look to beat him everywhere. If somebody like Josiah do too much in a fight like this, he's going to get dropped. He's going to get finished really easily, especially because the fighter's bigger. It kind of leaves less room for error. So that's what you got to do if you're going in a fight like this. Just find what you're good at, where that one little advantage is, and get greedy there. If he gets one step, he's got to take 5 in those scenarios. Just try to keep that fight where it is. Maybe hold him against the fence best you can, because sometimes against the shorter, stockier fighters, it's really difficult to pummel with and get those hands inside. Stuff like that. Just keep this game really short, really sweet, really compactful. That is your only path to victory, Josiah Harrell. I really hope that we see that and you follow it. I will be watching. See you guys then. Bye-bye.